And my granddaughter will be the youngest of all. I love your flowers. Daughter. You just turned 5 yesterday.
We did, next week we'll have our next week we'll have
I can't, Daddy.
I heard good stuff about them.
But I think when we get to it, it's just the exact time.
I was a paramedic.
Oh, we did be about yourself. We have to come down, pose with a picture.
No, Jimmy's not looking for the job, but I was just talking to him today. He was saying that he's known your dad for 30 years.
Yeah, I think I know who he's talking about. He did not. I know Bruce and years and he did not.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I didn't know anything about it.
That's what I had. Your daddy may be on TV, but Uncle Kyle's in there. Mr. Joffrey said the same thing.
There's other things.
Now they'll have the
Speaking of age, obviously that hair club thing.
I'll put in a request. Catherine, Everett is requesting regular MS. Okay. Well, when you come back.
the radio.
So that means every 2 weeks.
On Maryland. That's my nightmare scenario. I'm pretty confident she's a good enough kid. She won't drink and drive or anything like that. But
Hi, boys. How are you?
distractions of any experience.
Went to a theater. Oh, wait, right. Anybody else this way?
Oh, no, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah, what's up, Turn your phone off. I have to find the one that pays the bills. Hey, sit up here, everybody up here. The worst part about all this is the truck stop. You did not tell me until...
Everybody said, oh, this is
like, hey, Finn, sit up here, buddy. Bear.
So we told her to speak at the beginning of the comments.
Finn, go get Parker, so we gotta go.
Is it a NIMBY issue? Great, was it?
I only got off at 10, I can't have this go past 9. They don't want somebody else. They think he's got to do yeah, I mean, we got like 2 days.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Commissioners, are you all ready? We're going to try and bring a method to this madness. Everybody ready down there? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get started. Sign of the Buffalo. Sign of the Buffalo. Sign of the Buffalo. Thank you. Tonight we're going to begin the meeting with an invocation by our mayor, Kyle Van Busberg. Bless us, Almighty Mayor, please.
Almighty Mayor.
Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, as we gather here this evening to transact the business of the city, we ask for your guidance so that our actions reflect what is best for our entire community. Help us keep an open mind so we can listen to others in order to make informed decisions on matters before us this evening. Please remind us to be honest and fair. We ask that you bestow your wisdom, strength, and grace on our city officials, staff members, and residents who are here to work together for the people of Lighthouse Point. We ask you to remind us to treat everyone with dignity, respect, patience, and justice. We ask for your protection and guidance for our country in this trying time and for the citizens of Lighthouse Point in the United States. We thank you for the privilege and opportunity of serving you and our community. Amen.
Amen. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the regular Lighthouse Point City Commission meeting for May 10th, 2022. This is a hybrid form meeting. We're going to be here obviously live and in person and also using virtual technology via the Zoom platform. I would ask my assistant and junior commissioner, Alexandra Joffe, to call the meeting to order, please. Ooh, that was good. Thank you. Please rise to the pledge of the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And that's how the pledge should be done at every Lighthouse Point. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Van Buskirk,
Here.
Commission President Joffe,
Here.
Commission Vice President Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Long,
Here.
Commissioner Patron,
Here.
Commissioner Marshall,
Here.
City Attorney Cirillo,
Here.
City Administrator Levisky,
Here.
Finance Director Olympio, Assistant Chief Long, Library Director Keys, Police Chief Licata, Public Works Director Schramm is absent tonight, Recreation Director Word. We also have some special guests with us tonight in honor of Take Your Child to Work Day, and I'd like to do that roll call. Madeline Joffe,
Here.
Alexandra Joffe,
Here.
Finn Van Buskirk,
Here.
Parker Van Buskirk,
Here.
Wyatt Van Buskirk, Reagan Van Buskirk, Andrew Long,
Here.
William Long,
Here.
Eli Marshall.
Here.
All's accounted for.
All right, buckle up, everybody. The first items on our agenda are some presentations that will be done by our mayor. We doing a official presentation on Take Your Child to Work Day?
Yes,
Mr. Mayor?
we are just doing the fact that we brought all our children together today
All right.
for this. No, there is no actual proclamation for the Take Your Child to Work.
Okay. Commissioners, we were going to do a proclamation in honor of Eagle Scout Evan Trost, but we were going to scratch that. He was not able to attend this evening. So just letting you know, we will reschedule that. The next item on the agenda is a proclamation for National Safe Boating Week. Mayor Van Buskirk.
Yes, I want to come on down. I know it's a little bit harder than normal.
Take a child with you.
Take it.
Oh, there you go.
She slid into that awfully easy. Teenage years.
How are you doing today? All right, this is a proclamation on behalf of myself for the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla number 37 that supports Lighthouse Point and our local waterways, so we thank you. Whereas the city of Lighthouse Point is blessed with ample clear waterways to the sea and citizenry who enjoys boating. And whereas those waterways and canals are maintained for the use and enjoyment of the citizens of Lighthouse Point, and all guests joining the usage of Lighthouse Point's waterways, facilities, and whereas the citizens of Lighthouse Point are fully aware of the necessity for boating safety in order to completely enjoy the pleasures of recreational boating, and whereas in response to the need for all recreational boaters to recognize the state of Florida leads the country in accidental boating deaths, which is sad, and the use of personal flotation devices helps to reduce the number of fatalities. Now, therefore, I, Kyle Van Buskirk, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Lighthouse Point, to hereby proclaim the week of May 21st through the 27th, 2022, as National Safe Boating Week in Lighthouse Point, and endorse the aims of the United States Coast Guard Auxiliary Flotilla number 37 of Lighthouse Point in support of the program for National Safe Boating Week. Thank you very much. I think the whole key behind that, having our own flotilla here in the city of Lighthouse Point, and the fact that we haven't been able to do this for the last couple of years, It's an honor to have you guys come and remind everybody about how important safe boating is. Specifically, as far as I'm concerned, the PFD, utilizing a personal flotation device while you're out there. We have so many young kids in here today, and making sure that we're doing the right things around the water is important.
The main cause of deaths in boating accidents is drowning, and those drownings are mainly caused because people are not wearing their personal flotation devices. So we advocate wearing them at all times while you're on the boat. And there are, of course, some legal age requirements. I'm not going to go into them all here, but we have a lot of kids here. And kids, if you're out on the ocean, wear your personal flotation device if you're outside on the boat, on the deck, because it's your life, and we want to see you come back and have a good time, and come back and still have a good time. So that's my spiel, and we are looking forward to being able to get back into Dixon Hall
On our way.
and being able to service the community fully once again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, it's Becky. Are you gonna do it?
Yeah.
The next item on our agenda is the Keeper Day Awards. Recreation Director Word.
Good evening, everybody. Good to see you guys here. Before we do the Keeper Day Parade Awards, I did want to give everyone an update. As we know, about a year ago, Mr. Roy Rogers came here and had a marvelous donation to the city to do a memorial brick area for his wife, Mandy, that he had lost in recent years. And it's really, really turned out well. If you haven't been by, I encourage you to go by there. We were able to make an ADA compliant new bench area by the water, and obviously with the memorial bench there in her honor. And behind him, we were also able to add a new picnic area with paved walkway. So in his words, he said, the park is pulsing with joy. So I'm sure you would enjoy that. So we wanted to give you an update on the project up at DeGroff Park. And now, to go on to our Keeper Day Awards for 2022. And we have, oh, thank you very much, Hannah. Okay, we have our first one for the Keeper Day Committee Award, goes to St. Thomas Band, and we have Director Richard Bradford here. And we do have some of my Cultural Arts Committee members are here right now. Ms. Christine Van Buskirk and Ms. Diane Bell, and there might be others here, but they also helped us pick that one out. We wanted to honor the band because of their dedication to our parade. I believe John Trudeau told us they've participated in every parade we've had for Keeper Day. So we truly appreciate the spirit that the St. Thomas Aquinas Band gives us. Thank you. Thank you. And moving on to
Class of 97 up here, so thank you very much.
And moving on to best use of theme, we have, oh, sorry. Can we switch? Sorry, not the best use of theme. We have the Mayor's Award. And this goes to the almighty Indian Creek Tribe.
Our esteemed leader.
And all his marvelous crew here, the Indian Creek Princesses. And
Let's go. Oh, Will, I mean, Angela, Will, you guys want to come? Strong?
Oh, the Indians.
I'm good. Pay extra for that.
I think for
He's a huge, that's just a good daddy dog. But then
What?
Shouldn't do that. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
C-R-E-K, Creek, Creek, that's what it is.
You didn't go in the photo.
And And again, we just want to thank the Creek Tribe. Thank you very much for coming out, bringing the spirit that you do, just like you did tonight. So thank you for representing. We hope to have you back in the next year. And last but not least, we have the best use of theme. It was our Mardi Gras themed, Let the Good Times Roll, and the Cantor family truck. Definitely. We have Miss Shannon and Miss Molly Cantor here representing the Cantor family and several other families in the community. And our Public Works Department is now finally forgiving us for all of the lovely debris that may have followed the fire truck. But thank you very much for participating, everyone coming out. And it was a great time. We look forward to having another one in 2023. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Recreation Director Ward. Next item on our agenda, Commissioners, is the approval of minutes. We have several sets of minutes. We have the special meeting of April 20th, 2022, the special meeting of April 25th, 2022, and the regular meeting of April 26th, 2022.
Do you want it separate, or?
Commission's prerogative. You want to do them all together?
It's okay.
Yeah, sure.
I'll make a motion to approve all of the above-mentioned minutes from the 20th, the 25th, and the 26th of April.
Commissioners, we have a motion. Do we have a second? So we have a second from Commissioner Marshall. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose?
Opposed.
I don't know what happened there, but I think the people that are supposed to vote, that means it passed 5-0. Maybe the minutes should reflect the no by Finn Van Buster.
No votes by the mayor.
No
votes by the mayor.
No votes by the mayor or his progeny. Treasurer's report.
Good evening. Treasurer's report, May 10th, 2022. General fund, $7,035,385.76. Cleanup deposits, $40,800. Garbage and trash fund, $1,170,894.91. Special purpose funds, $3,273,829.27. Stormwater utility fund, $852,850.31. Construction and debt service funds, $3,405,289.48. Reserve for encumbrances, general fund, $922,305.41. All other funds, $3,657,965.25. Contingency, $5,842,029.00. Total all funds, $26,201,349.39.
Commissioners, any questions for our Finance Director? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, now public comments and requests regarding agenda items. There are 9 items on our agenda. There will be an opportunity at the end during regular public comment to address anything, but it's our custom now to allow you to come up and address the commission before we discuss these items. So if you have any public comments or requests regarding any of the 9 items listed on our agenda, come forward, state your name and address, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak.
And Mr. President, just to remember, number 4 is a public hearing in and of itself.
Yes,
So they can
thank you.
speak at that time as well on item number 4.
There's number 4 is an ordinance regarding yard encroachments and open-air shade structures. So if you're here on that, there will be public comment on number 4. But anything else, come on up.
Good evening.
Good evening. The Severinos at 30...
Can you give us your name and address, please?
Sure. Severinos, Paul and Mike Severino at 3348 Northeast 27th Avenue, talking about item number 9.
Okay.
We have been residents of Lighthouse Point for 22 years. There was some type of drainage issue in the past, part of Phase 1, and Mr. Jasinski, where is he? Thank you. He came out to the house the other day. We feel that some of the work that's being done is probably unnecessary, what's being proposed. We understand that there has been a problem on the street. We've been there for 22 years. Part of the drainage issue in Phase 1 has been done, completed, and it probably solved a good 90% of the problem. So Now we're into phase 2, and Charles came out to our house several times to address some other type of issues, allowing to put drainage, more of a swale into our property. We feel it's unnecessary and maybe probably funds better spent somewhere else in the city. So we'd like to address why we're doing it, number one, and two, why is it directly affecting us?
And just to add to that, we've been taking videos of the water issue. When we first moved in, you couldn't go up 27th Avenue. And then you guys were right across from the tennis courts you guys we brought in as a city. It took months. And it has created, we've taken videos and pictures. There's a very little puddle in front of our house. There is still definitely a drainage issue up by the volleyball courts. I mean, you can at least get through the street, but there was a point where if you had a low-lying car, before we did the big improvement at the tennis courts, you had to go around the park because you could have had water in the car. So the tennis court improvement did lose parking spaces. However, it did really improve the drainage issue. So we've been taking videos since November and pictures, and so we're going to have a swale. We, 20 years ago, put in a corner fence and a swimming pool in the front yard, and we feel like we're the ones that are going to get this because everyone else has a circular driveway, and there really be an opportunity to put in a swale that's going to get down 12 inches into a drainage ditch that then I guess is going to connect it to some pipe and then go all the way down. But that's still not going to address the main issue that's up the street. So our question is, what are the phases? What is the time frame? How does ours help to assist with the rest of the drainage issues? And we just feel that maybe our property value, I don't know, and then maintaining it where, they're saying that the ditch is going to come down like this, and it's going to be about the size of 2 car lengths and about the width on our entire front swale. So, of course, when he came out, he said, they would take care of sod, and everything's going to have to be done because they're going to tear up the whole front. But what else? What's
the ultimate goal? We're trying to figure out how directly.
We don't really have a drainage issue anymore on our side. And you can see the street slopes down. The drainage issue is still on the other side. Listen, we're trying to be compliant. We just want to make sure that that everybody's addressing. It's a $100,000 project that Bob lives across the street from us, and neither one of us have the issue.
Okay. We'll, I appreciate
Sorry.
it. No, it's all right, it's all right.
I know I took our 3 minutes.
It's okay.
But we
It's
really,
okay.
we don't,
We're concerned. We're very
Understood.
concerned over why we're directly affected for this particular project. We don't feel there's actually even a problem in our particular area.
We'll discuss, we'll try and get you some answers when we.
Thank you,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Bob Levine. The dog is Rudd. I'm not going to take a bunch of your time. I'm just here to reiterate.
Your address, please, sir.
3331 Northeast 27th Avenue. I've lived here for probably 25 years. I just want to reiterate what Mike said. I live right across the street, and I can see this as a priority problem. I have no problem with you using any of this funds for any infrastructure improvement. I just don't see how this is any kind of a priority. It's not a problem. I live right across the street from the problem. There isn't a problem. That's all I got.
Anybody else in the audience, live? Public comment? Anybody?
No one's raising their hand.
Madam Clerk, anybody watching on Zoom, if you want to participate in public comment and requests regarding agenda items, raise your hand. I'm seeing no one raise their hand. Madam Clerk, do you see anybody? Okay, anybody else again in the audience? Nope? Okay, we'll close public comment. Requests regarding agenda items. Doesn't look like we have any reports from city administration. No department reports. We have a report from the city attorney on the Lighthouse Point Yacht Club.
Mr. President, members of the City Commission, just to give you a brief update on where we are, as you may recall, all the City Commission approvals were accomplished for this project on February 8th at a meeting in which you considered, I believe, 5 ordinances to move the project forward. There were some changes to the development agreement that evening, some minor changes that were necessitated as a result of the discussions. That document got to the developer's attorneys 2 weeks later on February 22nd. And due to scheduling and whatnot, we did not get together with them to discuss the changes until March 24th. As we sit here tonight, the development agreement is not fully executed. We do have execution of the developer, and we have, you may recall, we also required the signatures of folks who had items recorded and on the property prior to the development agreement in order to make our best efforts to insulate the city from any type of foreclosure, any type of thing on those priority issues. We have one of those signatories done. There have been some logistical issues, my understanding, in getting another one of those signed. And then the contractor, who has a notice of commencement, requested change so that they don't have to agree to the terms of the agreement like the mortgagors would, but that they would agree to subordinate their notice of commencement to it, which I felt was a fair enough change to get them to sign it, because obviously they're not going to take over a project like a mortgage holder would. So, so we do have it signed by the developer, and it's my understanding that based on that and the efforts that have been represented by the developer, the city's going to begin preliminary review of the building plans and the plans that come through now, but just the document will not be in effect until it gets fully executed and the city signs last. So although everybody, the mayor's here and can sign it any time now, we will sign it only after we have resolved the other issues, which I know that the developers and their attorney are working on getting that to us in the near future. So again, the plans are being submitted, they're being preliminarily reviewed, but nothing will be final, nothing will be, I guess, final approved until we get the development agreement signed and recorded. And one last thing, we are past the time period for any types of appeals on your ordinances as well. So under the terms of the agreement, those are final. So, you know, that's where we sit tonight on the yacht club development. If you happen to answer any questions that I may have, but I just wanted to give you an update, as it was the intent of the commission to get 90-day updates, and we're at about the 90th day, maybe a week late.
Commissioners, any questions?
I don't have a question, but I saw that they've delayed the closing of the yacht club now till the end of July. It was going to close at the end of May, but they announced now it's going to stay open until the end of July, so I don't know.
Mr. Long?
So currently, what permits do they have? Because I know they're doing some work on the docks. Is that separate and distinct? And I know they were doing work in bathrooms and other stuff. I mean, what, at this point, do they have any permits that have been issued?
Do they have any permits, John?
For docks, they do. They were working without permits on the docks, and then the contractor came in and pulled permits for the docks.
Okay, so bathrooms or anything?
I know they had a fire there a couple of years ago. Maybe they were doing something, but I don't know, Commissioner. I don't know about bathrooms.
They're remodeling it back.
Do they? Okay. Probably cool. Now let's see if they pulled permits. So.
Do we feel that this development agreement is going to be signed? I mean, is it a waste of resources to start looking at plans if the development agreement isn't signed? Or is that just the
My
way it's done?
information is that it's going to be signed, and they've just got some, I guess, some logistical challenges in getting, you remember there was an LLC that had a mortgage, there was a investment fund that has recorded interest on the property.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, they in fact delivered to me the signature pages this afternoon, I think, to show that they're making efforts to get that work done. It's just not done yet. The review, I believe they're going to pay for that preliminary review, correct?
They want to turn in some plans for preliminary review, and we'll do that, and we'll charge them our Calvin Giordano rate, plus we're going to add $15 for administrative fees on top of that. Now, that's going to be permit fees. Eventually, when they come for permit, they'll have to pay the full permit fees.
Okay.
So this is something that's really on the developer, because he wants to get a jump and see if his buildings are, you know, are designed well, and if he's going to have trouble getting permitting later on. And I talked to the building official, and you know, they're prepared to do that.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you. No reports of standing committees. Planning and zoning is going to meet June 7th, 2022. Code enforcement meets May 17th, 2022. Community appearance board meets May 19th. Special magistrate meets June 1st. Marine advisory meets August 4th. We have no unfinished business, and we have new business. Setting a date for fiscal year 2022-23 budget workshop. Madam Clerk.
Good evening. Each year in June, a budget workshop is held either preceding the first or second regular city commission meeting. Administration would like to recommend that we hold that budget workshop on June 28th at 4 p.m. Also, we have been notified by the Broward County Property Appraiser's Office that the dates of September 8th and September 20th are being utilized by the Broward County Commission. The school board is holding their second public hearing on September 13th. As you may know from last year and years prior, that we are not allowed to hold our public hearings on the same dates as the property, or the Broward County Commission or the school board. We are recommending that we move regular city commission meetings in order to meet our statutory deadlines for our budget hearings. We are asking that we move our Tuesday, September 13th regular city commission meeting to Monday, September 12th at 6:30 p.m. and our Tuesday, September 27th regular commission meeting to Thursday, September 22nd at 6:30 p.m. This way we'll be able to fit in the public hearings based on our statutory requirements. Also, our special assessment public hearings would be held on the Monday, September 12th meeting at 6:30 p.m.
Commissioners, any questions, any scheduling issues, discussion about the recommendations from city administration on these important topics? Seeing none, would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion setting the date and time to conduct our budget workshop on Tuesday, June 28th at 4 p.m. here in the chambers. I'd also, at the same motion, like to consider changing the date of the regularly scheduled city commission meeting of Tuesday, September 13th to one day before on Monday, September 12th at 6:30, and on Tuesday, the 27th to Thursday, September 22nd at 6:30. That's where we'll conduct the annual budget and annual millage adoption hearings. And also consider, also a motion to set the date and time to conduct a public hearing for fire protection, special assessment, storm utility special assessment, residential solid waste collection special assessment to Monday, September 12th at 6:30 p.m.
A motion by Commissioner Long. Do we have a second?
Second.
I think that one's Commissioner Marshall again. Sorry. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
On to agenda item number 2, consider motions to approve work orders with Kimberly Horn and Associates for projects funded by the American Rescue Plan Act. Mr. Levisky.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Commissioners, as you're aware, we have 2 continuing contracts with Kimberly Horn. One is for bridge consulting services, and another one is for engineering and management consultant services. Right now, there's 2 open work orders that are with Kimberly Horn, and that's on the Alamanda Bridge. So that's separate from what we're going to talk about this evening. At one of your previous meetings, you talked about projects that you want to do coming up, infrastructure projects, and one was to update the stormwater master plan. So we have a proposal from Kimberly Horn to update the stormwater master plan for $151,505. At the same meeting, you talked about the seawall study. So we asked Kimberly Horn to present a proposal for a seawall study, and they have, and it's $46,900. And also we asked them to, and the commission agreed to do a hydrographic survey. That was one of your priorities. So we asked them again for a work order, and they gave us a work order to perform a hydrographic study for $55,510. And we need to do a hydrographic survey before we can do dredging in the future. The 4th work order that's on the agenda, it's just for your consideration, condition assessments for 7 city bridges. at one of your previous meetings, a different meeting, then we talked about the stormwater master plan, the seawall study, and the hydrographic survey. You talked about the condition of the bridges and a lack of confidence maybe in the FDOT inspections. So, and you said at a previous meeting, you're going to talk about it as a discussion item. What I did is we just asked Kimley Horn to give us a proposal to do the 7 bridges if you go in that direction. So we realize now that you want it on the agenda as a discussion, so you can talk about it this evening as a discussion. But if you do want to move forward, we have a work order for you. There's a representative here from Kimley Horn, Jerry Piccolo, can answer any questions. So the recommended action is to discuss the proposed scope of work of each work order and consider approving the work orders. And then if you do decide to go in that direction, there's 4 separate motions that you could make to, and then would give direction to city administration on how to move forward. So that's my report.
All right, thank you, Mr. City Administrator. Commissioners, important topics, a total of $321,145 we're talking about on items that we've talked about over the past several months, and stuff that might have been overdue, some would say. So let's talk about it and see how we want to proceed. Who wants to go first?
I have
Mr.
something I
Johnson.
want to say, because I've been working on this. The bridge assessment. In reading what Kimley Horn was going to do, they're going to do just a visual. And FDOT did a visual in September, and look what happened. So I'm not sure that just, I don't even know if FDOT went past the visual, because I still haven't gotten the right people to come and talk back with me. But I just really want to get some answers from FDOT to find out when they could come back and when they could do a complete study with not just looking at it, if they don't have any other kind of equipment, and maybe even Kimley Horn has that equipment if we wanted to go in that much depth with it. But I hate to see us have to spend $67,000 of our money if we could get them to come back again and show them, hey, you were here in September and then the bridge fell apart. So what can you do better for us in a small city to try and fix this? So I'm not sure if we maybe could just hold that one for a couple of weeks and let them work a little more on it and see, or, go ahead and go through with it. But if I could save that money, I feel like it'd be worth it.
Well, I just had another. It's a valid point. If they're just doing a visual, and that's what.
Yeah, and that's scary.
Yeah. That's a fair point, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Long?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson, was there anything else?
No, that's all.
And I'd echo what Sandy was saying. It's like, we need something a little more in-depth.
Right.
At this current age with those bridges, especially the older ones that we had identified before. I think we need to maybe take a step back on that, get a little more information on what we really need and whether it's Kimley Horn or others that can provide that service that we really need, rather than just throwing away $67,000. So I would, support the rest of it if we just pulled the 67,230 out.
A couple questions. I noticed that on the bridge one, they say they're just doing the above water portions of the bridge. That's kind of scary to me, because the bridge, I would think all of the support is under the water. Shouldn't that be included?
Is that part of was that asked, or are they not able to do it, do we know, or is that?
Jerry is here. They're also going to do sound testing, and Jerry can explain that too. More than a visual, they do sound testing.
Okay.
And he can explain that.
Commissioner, how are you guys?
Good.
Good to
What's
see
your
you.
name again?
This is
Just your full name?
Jerry Piccolo.
Thank you.
So when like you said, the majority of the assessments, we're going to go out there, and the first thing is to look at everything visually. Whenever we see areas where we see spalling, laminations, or indications that there are some deteriorated areas, we go out there and we sound it with hammers. What we're trying to do is we're sounding for concrete that is substandard, or if there's delaminations or air pockets behind it. So we are going to do a little bit more than, like you say, visual, but we're going to get in there and we're going to look for that stuff.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry.
Absolutely.
How is what you're doing different? Are you familiar with the FDOT review process? How is what you're doing different than what FDOT does?
It is similar.
Do they do sounding?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is it different?
DOT, when they go out there, they send certified bridge inspectors out there. and they are trained to go out there and look for deficiencies. So when we go out there, I'm going to go out there myself, and when a certified bridge inspector, they're going to see the deficiencies. We're going to see the deficiencies and see, does this crack, what does this indicate? And we're going to look at it from an engineering standpoint and connect the dots there. So that's one of the other items that we're going to bring that DOT typical standard inspections don't bring.
Can you, I'm sorry, I don't know if anybody else understands that. Can you elaborate on that? Like,
Yeah.
when you say connect the dots?
So, like when
what?
we were out there for the Northeast 24th Avenue Bridge, it wasn't just the fact that there was falling on the bottom of that beam, it was the fact that the rebar was starting to laminate from the bottom of the beam. The rebar is the main reinforcement for that beam member. So when you see the cracking and you see the delaminations of that bar, you can start to see that that is how the potential failure is going to propagate, is that bar becomes delaminated and you lose your main reinforcement on the bottom of that beam. So when I say we're going to connect the dots, we're going to look at the different deficiencies and we're going to apply engineering judgment to that and start to look at how the different deficiencies could potentially impact the integrity of the bridge.
Some of the reports we have on some of these bridges from FDOT are fairly recent.
Yes.
Why, but by rec, I don't remember the exact, but they were pretty recent, some of them. Why can't you, can you use some of that to connect the dots? I mean.
I want to go out there and see it hands-on, firsthand, and see it, because.
I guess I'm just trying to justify I feel like they've already done a lot of this and we're paying for it twice. They do it for free for us.
Yeah.
You want $67,000 to do it, so, that's what I'm struggling with. So, Commissioner Petroni, do you have anything?
And what about the underwater portion?
We do have scuba certified engineers that can go out and do that. We just didn't know that the city wanted to go with that route as well. But we can do that.
Is that a big increase in
It's more
price?
field work. Reporting-wise, no, it's not an additional for the reporting side. And the work order is broken up, field work versus reporting. And with a diver, we had to have a third person on hand.
Okay.
Jason? And that brings up the question, let's say we were to go this normal route for 67-230, and all of a sudden you're looking at some of the piers holding the thing up, and you see the spalling there and the delamination going underwater, then of course you're going to say, okay, well, now you definitely need this, and we see the spalling goes all the way down into the soil itself. So now we have a bigger issue, but what else is there to assess a bridge other than the visual and taking a hammer, which we can do, and that's kind of what FDOT did, and that's why a piece is falling off. And I get the whole putting all the pieces together and figuring out this puzzle, because you can look at 24th as an example, and you can see there's spalling, there's delamination, there's the separation between the road bed and the bridge itself. You can see the sides where they've moved and all of that together. What can you bring that we don't already know? Just by this visual inspection that you're doing here.
Just applying the engineering judgment that goes with the visual assessments and looking at the elements when you see deflections, knowing is that a deflection that is critical, or is it just a deflection that happens over time as part of the normal aging process of a bridge. So looking at different things, applying the engineering judgment behind it, and that's something that I think our reports would bring that the DOT reports may not bring.
But what's it going to set, like, sorry, Mike, go ahead.
And just the other thing is, if we were to go for the other three, the stormwater, seawall, and hydrographic survey, and we decided in 2 months to bring that back, where we got the same price?
Yeah.
So my suggestion is wait, let's get more information, ask more questions. We can do the other three, but maybe not this one right now. But let's not, and I'm not saying put it in the back burner, but let's ask more questions.
Couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks.
Any other questions? Do you have questions?
I just want to be sure that if we're doing this stormwater and the dredging studies, that we actually follow through once we get the studies and make sure that we have a plan and continue and do what they're telling us we need to do.
Well, that's the point I wanted to make is, that's the point I wanted to make is if we're gonna, you're kind of a little bit, as I would say, once you start spending the money on the big ticket items like a hydrographic study or the stormwater master plan, I guess we all as a commission, with the support of the administration, I'm assuming, kind of have to understand we're kind of pregnant, right? We're not going to do what happened last time, which is we had a hydrographic study and there was a big delay between the time of the hydrographic study and when we did some actual dredging. We should have dredged, but it wasn't the most up to date. So I think just understanding that this is just the tip of the spear on the more expensive stuff's coming, I guess, to put it.
But that's a funding issue that we have to look at
Yeah.
over the course of the next 2 years.
So what are we going to do with the seawall study? Then we're going to study the seawall and what's
Can
the
you
result of that?
can you elaborate on that, or someone from administration?
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Seawall.
essentially, the seawalls, a lot of the seawalls are original construction, 1950s as well. So we're going to go out there, look at all the different seawalls, investigate the condition of them, and see, are they structurally adequate to be raised? Broward County has an ordinance out that all seawalls that are going to be manipulated, reconstructed, or going to be undergo severe, large rehabilitations, they're going to have to get raised to elevation 5, and a lot of your seawalls are elevation 3, elevation 4. So when we raise the tops of the seawalls, we're adding more loading to the walls, which would cause them to be analyzed or evaluated structurally. So we're going to go out and see what types of seawalls you guys have, see what they are, write about them. Are they in good enough structural condition that they can be raised? Meaning that you go out there, you can raise the top of the seawall caps, or is it something that these walls are in poor condition and need to be replaced? And then we're going to go through that process for all 15 different wall segments that we located, and then put together an opinion of probable construction costs, whether to rehabilitate and raise the seawalls or to replace the seawalls.
Just, which seawalls are we talking about? Just
There are-
ones that belong to the city?
There's a
Yes.
chart in.
Like 39.
Oh, I didn't see that. I guess I got hung up on the.
I would think
A little
that
red
would,
line.
Oh, yeah, I did see
That-
that.
that-
I'm
the red
sorry.
mark?
That
I
is
saw that.
39.
Right.
I think we have.
Commissioner Marshall.
Do we have
I-
the money to start building up those seawalls now?
Well-
Find out that they're,
But we need to, I guess the question is, we need to start somewhere. And that's
yes.
Well,
ahead.
keep in mind, if we are to seek any agency dollars from
Yeah,
state,
that's
county,
true.
federal
Yeah.
government, you have to have these in place.
Yeah, you're right.
So, I mean, that's just the start. You have to have that before you can even apply for this stuff, because you got to show cause of why you need it.
Commissioner Martin.
if the seawall study that we do, if the seawalls and the stormwater coincide with one another, let's say on 39th Street, if there's a problem there and there are seawalls there, then we should do, if we're going to do a project, then we should do the whole thing all at the same time. Not piecemeal, do the street and then worry about the seawall later. I think that's the thinking that I would like to see us have going forward as one turns into the other.
Okay. Mayor?
I would just say that as you look over our stormwater master plan, that has, as they put that together, it's a 2-page or 2-volume book that puts together all that information together. However, though, when they put that together, it's nice to know whether they can or cannot raise a seawall without having to put in new seawalls. That's where that aspect is coming from. And the stormwater master plan would then put in together, just not, and if you look at it, they have 10, but they're basically giving you your top 10 things, but they're also putting down of, as these things happen, what happens to the crown of the road, how high does our road need to be raised. It's a long-term, large-scale look at how our city's gonna prepare for the 2050 sea level rise. And also how to watershed those issues that come with that. So that stormwater master plan plays back into your seawall study, which then plays back into your drainage, it plays back into your watershed, and it is all comprehensively put together. That's why these things are in front of you. But again, to everybody's point, our goal is, as administration, is to put as much in front of you to give you the best opportunity to make the most educated decision. And to the point of the seawall study, I agree with you. Looking over, it's obviously visual, but We,
Do we expect, but do we really expect, I get the point, but do we expect like a 50-year seawall? Do you really expect that you're going to come back and say we can just raise the cap? I mean, I looked at some of these seawalls. Do we actually think that's a possibility?
There are some locations, I haven't been out to them yet, but the ones along 39th Avenue, there's a lot of those that look
Decent?
So,
For a 50-year
and obviously,
wall?
we're gonna go out there and just identify what type of wall is it. Is there a footing out down there below that we can't see it from above grade as well? And then I just want to add to your point as well, is that the stormwater master plan, it's gonna take into account the raising of the sea level, or the seawalls from a watershed standpoint as well. So when you raise those seawalls, right now, water can flow off the roads, sheet flow over the walls into the canals, and then obviously when we raise those walls, in the future, it's going to prohibit that.
How do you feel about the bridges and waiting on the bridges? Because, look, listen, I think part of this is the mayor's got to come up with a budget. And we're entering budget season. And it goes to your point, Mr. Marshall, that I feel like the administration's looking to say, well, if we're going to spend the money on these projects, and the proposal is it comes out of the American Rescue Plan money, which is great to have, and one of my questions is going to be, I've tried to keep track of how much, if any, we've spent of that so far, so that's going to be one of my questions, is administration needs to know what we're intending to do from a budgetary standpoint, and I think this is a good signal that we intend, to Commissioner Marshall's point, to proceed with some of these items. We're paying the $55,000 for a hydrographic study. We want to dredge within a reasonable period of time. You know, we're looking at the seawalls and the stormwater, so we might have some stormwater projects in our future. It's a signal to administration, so he can put together a budget that we get to review and talk about come June and come September. So, you know, I think that's what, I don't think the mayor would have put it before us if he didn't think they were important items. But especially with the bridges, how do you feel about that?
I would just say that we had FDOT surveys, we all looked at them, or you folks all looked at them, and everybody said the same thing. I think we all had to agree and said we were not 100% believe what they were putting out there. And obviously, there are more extensive surveys that can be done, but those also cost more money. So the idea was at least we'd be comparing somewhat similar apples to apples. So if they came back and said, no, it's a 47, and FDOT says at a 78, then we need to figure that out. I mean, to Commissioner Johnson's point, she has been working tirelessly to try to figure out how to get FDOT back out here through the MPO. And I appreciate it. We're actually going to go down there together again. But the idea is we are trying to figure out, we only have one. We have FDOT in front of us. So with that being said, I don't know where else to compare it to. So
Well, that's a good question. So will you, for, you know, simple lawyer commissioners up here, are you going to be able to say, are you evaluating, or as part of your review, will you be able to agree or disagree with the most recent FDOT reviews? Like FDOT rated the bridge an 87. I'm rating, you know, Kimberly Horn's rating it a 60. Is it going to be that kind of comparison, or?
The way we do condition assessments, it's not quite the way that DOT does it. The way that DOT does it and all those different factors, those factor in the number and location and volume of deficiencies. We're going to identify the deficiencies, write about corrective actions that should be taking place, and then kind of look for, I think after Northeast 24th, we're going to look for the big ticket items. I think that's the big thing that, you know, we really want to do, is make sure that when we go out there, we're not seeing other issues like we saw on 24th Avenue. I think that's the.
Did you rate it? Do you give it a B? Do you give it a C?
We're going to give a list of deficiencies, things that need to be, this needs to be monitored, this needs to be addressed immediately. But as far as going through and doing an apples-to-apples comparison to DOT and giving you the DOT ratings, that was not what the intent of our proposal was to do. So it was just to get a second set of eyes out there, evaluate the bridges, and have an engineer go out there and look at the bridges from a public safety.
But how do we get that to fit then in with like the FDOT formula? Because I think in order to get funding from FDOT, you have to meet those criterias of the, what it's defective and all those numbers. So how would your numbers, if we went to them and said, look, we need money, how would we be able to use your numbers with them? Would they accept those as for us to get our name in the hat
Wait,
there?
I understood, yeah. The way that we put the proposal together, that's not really how we intended to go through and evaluate the bridges and do that from, on the statistical way that DOT does it. Ours was just like an independent, second opinion, point of view, and just mainly looking for the big ticket items, things that need to be addressed now. So,
So if you found something really wrong with any one of those bridges, we would have to get them to come back and take another look at it in order for, because doesn't it have to be, it has to be a certain rating before they'll even consider funding it. So if we had more specific knowledge from you, and got them back, then they'd have to change from their 87 to 50 or 40 or whatever, if you found a tremendous difference between what they said and what you're seeing.
yeah. And those ratings are a little bit subjective in the sense that, they're based on the percentage of components. So if you're going out there and looking at the beams, it's going to look at the overall area of the beams and look at the percentage that is deemed deficient. So there's going to be a little bit of subjectiveness to those ratings as well.
Well, you're not telling us an engineering analysis has to have some level of subjectivity. Well, that's what, you just said you're taking your engineering expertise and connecting the dots. That's subjective. Commissioner Long?
Yeah, my concern is you're using the inspection reports that we're giving you as kind of your base. And now we're going to have, let's just say we have two reports that differ. Who do we believe? What are we getting for our money? Nothing. And that's why I'm just saying, wait 2 weeks. Let's see what else is out there as far as what other information we could be getting, even if it's another $10,000 for a study, but at least we're getting more quantitative information rather than just tapping with a hammer, taking pictures and coming up with some subjective numbers. I'm not saying put this off that much longer. I'm saying let's just get the information and make sure this is the right inspection that we need right now.
I think that's a good point. Do you have any other experience dealing with FDOT on, other cities or other situations like we're going through right now?
As far as going and inspecting bridges?
And just
We do
having
a lot.
your information coordinate with FDOT's, and because I think, they bring up a very good point. Who do we believe?
Yeah, I understand. We do a lot of work with FDOT and their maintenance group. Particularly, we do a bunch of work for DOT as well. So we do have that know-how and understanding of their processes as well.
Okay.
So Commissioners, I'm hearing a desire to hit the pause button for at least a couple of weeks on the assessments for bridges.
Right. Even until just the next meeting, and let's just see
Yeah,
what
just figure out
can
what
happen.
other type of assessments we need to be doing on this. If it's electronic monitoring or something, or x-rays, I don't know. But I think we need more of a comprehensive report than we received from FDOT and would get from Kimley Horn. It's not taking anything away from them, just saying maybe we need, a little more info that's going to come out of a different type of report and study.
I guess just somewhat playing devil's, and I don't mind pausing it for 2 weeks, but I just feel like we're going to be back here with the same thing in 2 weeks, because that doesn't sound like we want to pay much more, candidly. And I guess what it sounds like you're going to give us for $67,000 is more than what FDOT gave us. You're going to say, hey, I looked at this bridge and this is a real problem, kind of like what you did when you ran into Alamanda. So I do feel like we're getting more than what FDOT gave. I'm fine hitting the pause button to see if Commissioner Johnson can work some magics, but I don't know how much longer I want to delay it, given.
But, you wonder if FDOT has some of that information, but they just don't give it to us. Maybe they have that, maybe they've studied it, maybe they know this beam or that is weak, but they just put it in a formula and then shoot it to us and give us a number.
That's a good question. Do you know if they give the
So maybe
backup?
they have more specifics. That's another thing I'm trying to find out. I haven't been able to.
It's definitely a public record. I guess I think what you're saying, Commissioner Johnson, is what we get from FDOT is I guess it's a more executive level.
No.
They give us everything?
They give us pictures and they give us details.
Oh, okay, so we have all that?
So we have that. We don't have just those numbers on that sheet that.
No, we have a whole inspection report on every bridge when they do them.
So What is this going to be different than if we
Well,
already have that?
this came from the city commission that you lost
Right.
confidence in the
Yeah.
FDOT inspection, so we put this on for discussion.
Right.
But it's also, we asked them for a proposal because you're going to ask during the discussion how much.
It's gonna cost, right?
We didn't expect, city administration, the mayor and I weren't sure. We were pretty confident on stormwater, seawall, and hydrographic, and this was put on for discussion, but we have a proposal, and we have the engineer here.
All right, so consensus is, do we want to hit pause on the, for a couple of weeks and see what's going on the bridge?
And just see what else we can be doing as far as inspection service on a bridge, or bridge is. You know, is this what standard is? Or do we go further when we know that we have some, possible deficient bridges? Since Alamanda was one we didn't think was as bad, we didn't think pieces would be falling off it. But let's get that information. It shouldn't take more than a few phone calls and talking to some people. Well, not from DOT.
Right.
But, there's groups out there, and Kim Horn might be able to pop in some more information as well.
Or maybe they could even look at the information we have, if we have more detailed
Well, they're gonna use-
information than
yeah.
that one piece of paper that we saw.
But they are going to be using the FDOT inspection reports provided by the city.
Right.
Yeah, so.
So,
Okay, I have two quick questions. One, of the five, we have 5.6 million, right, American Rescue? Let's just, how much have we encumbered any of that so far?
We have, CGC,
Right,
CGC, at $25,000.
okay.
The Alamanda Bridge study, going back to the culvert versus, the means and methods of a bridge, we're going to use American Rescue Plan dollars to pay for that.
Which they're doing.
That's right, that's about $178,000, if I recall.
But that was the ones, that was for the, that's not the repair, that's
That's
for
the
the, what
initial.
do we do with the bridge?
That's the initial.
All right,
And then,
can you not use the money from the surtax for that as part of the planning for the bridge?
no, Commissioner, we're having,
You have to, we can't use that at all then?
not right now, no. The surtax dollars, we can't even agree with the Broward County as far as what our agreements are going to be like to use Kimley Horn with the county attorney's office and our attorney's office. We haven't put that together yet. We've been trying to, but it hasn't been put together. But the American Rescue Plan dollars, we can definitely use for that. And then the other one was the repair, when that concrete fell off, and that was about $25,000 for that work, so.
225.
225, 228. yes,
230,
sir.
okay. And then, I guess, and this goes back to CGC, are we confident, this all makes sense to me since it's infrastructure, very infrastructure heavy, but how confident are we that these are reimbursable from American Rescue Plan money, these expenses?
The city attorney gave us an opinion letter, and I will let the.
I love opinion
city attorney.
Under the current guidelines, we're confident.
There's the clause.
Get it in?
There's the clause, under the current.
When they come back and they do the post-project audits and the rules are viewed by different folks and different agencies, I can't guarantee that there won't be some curve thrown at us, but under the current guidelines, as we view them, as we read them, we're confident this would be reimbursable.
Where's CGC in this?
If I can, we had phase 1 and phase 2 with them, and phase 1 was $25,000, and they went through that rather quickly, and they're helping Corey right now with the reporting, the first reporting about how we're spending the money. So the phase 2 proposal we got from them was $200,000. And we just think, city administration, we think we could do it ourselves without using them for coming back and say we want $200,000 to pay another consultant. So we didn't even bring it back for discussion.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else? If not, Mayor, anything, obviously important stuff? You good?
No, thank you.
All right, anybody want to make a motion? I feel like we need, if I'm reading tea leaves right, we need 3 motions, and we could table one, I guess, if somebody wants to make 4 to officially table it, but Chair will entertain motions.
Could we make it in one motion?
I think administration wanted separate motions.
Well, I mean, it's the prerogative of the commission. It just, if you want to break it up in subparts, then it's easier to do separate motions. So the record's clear on what you're approving. If you've got confidence of 3, there's no reason why you couldn't do a single motion on the 3.
Okay, I'll throw it out there. Ladies and gentlemen of the commission, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following funding for these current work orders for Stormwater Master Plan Update Number 1 at $151,505, a seawall study for $46,900, and a hydrographic survey for $55,510 with Kimley Horn and Associates, and it will be funded by the American Rescue Plan Act.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second by Commissioner Johnson. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And is the consensus to bring the bridge back in 2 weeks and get an update maybe from Commissioner Johnson? It sounds like she's working some magic, hopefully, which is appreciated. The consensus of the commission, bring it back?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Moving on to agenda item number 3, discussion of naming policy of city-owned properties and streets. City Administrator Levisky.
Mr. President, Commissioners, this is going to be talked about by the mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry, it says here, it says mayor here. Okay, mayor. Sorry about that, John.
Commissioners, as I have mentioned to all of you folks, that there are things that we have discussed about previously to some folks being up there, but for other folks that have been up here for a while, on certain different aspects of whether it's hedge heights or naming policies or all those other things. So I'm slowly but surely putting stuff together. And as we are obviously looking at future naming issues, there were some thoughts the other night when we were talking about the naming and what do we do about 2 things with 2 names and the same person, or how do we go about it? And the idea was to give you some information to look at on some of the other naming policies in our surrounding neighborhoods, on how that they do their policies. Also discuss, I know during the last election, there was a lot of discussion about, naming rights and how to, whether you want to call it auction them off or have them paid for. I mean, it is an alternate form of funding for the city of Lighthouse Point. And there are things that we have looked at over the years. I think the idea here is if we want to keep it open and just allow it by a case-by-case basis, but ultimately in the end, I think that having something down is important so that there's a process that is followed and the understanding of how long the names are, how long the naming rights are for, or is there secondary names? I mean, there are a lot of policies out there. If you look through all this stuff, there's also cities with none that have information on how to do these things. It's naming policy, if they're paid for, it could be a 10-year payment. Or there's other places that after, somebody the other day that just moved in the city might say, who is Dixon Hall? I don't know. Who is that, or who is Al Fletcher? Or, and that's fine, but ultimately in the end, that's part of the process. And I just want to make sure we're aware of that. And if we want to put, or should we put, I believe we should find something to put a policy in place. So.
This is on the agenda for discussion, commissioners. Discuss. I know Commissioner Long, you've talked about this before. Do you have anything?
I've been shot down so many times, I was surprised it even showed up. I do believe you need policies. I think they need to be cognizant of our history, our traditions, but something that could be a little more formulated. I'm not a big fan of, underwriting and things like that.
Okay.
It's not like we have the, American Airlines or BBT Arena in our backyard or whatever it is this week. I don't know who FX Live is. but-
FTX.
FTX, still don't know who that is.
We can get like little NASCAR logos on our jackets.
There you go. But I do think it's just something that you can memorialize and kind of a process of how it goes. I mean, we have a number of buildings that have been named. We have a number of parks. We've had Public Works, librarian, original recreation director, we've had mayors, we have a little bit of everything in there. So I think it's nice that we put something together. I think we probably need to keep it fairly simple. Let's not overdo it. But put something together that really, again, codifies what the city of Lighthouse Point is, what it has been, how it grew to where it is today, and where it's going to be going in the future. Again, I don't think we're going to have the FX Live arena being put in here anytime soon, but, really the focus on our buildings, our streets, and parks, areas, things like that.
Mr. Johnson, anything?
No, I agree that we could have a policy in place, but not as complicated as some of these cities have with all these things. I don't think we need anything quite that complicated, but a simple plan would be fine.
What about over here?
I like the Wilton Manor one. I think it was kind of simple. I understand that Solicitor Cirillo's office takes care of Wilton Manor. That might be an inroad to be able to document that. The other thing that I did notice in all of these, and I don't know which one it was, you have to be dead to get something named after you. That's just crazy. I certainly wouldn't say that somebody has to be dead to name something after him in Lighthouse Point, but...
That ship has sailed unless we want to build a new ship, so.
And I will say that I think every building or park that has been named when the person was living.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
So, and a lot of them still are, so, yeah.
How did we handle it in the past?
Battle Royale.
Actually not. I mean, for, like Doreen, that came through the library. They just basically said, we're going to name the library this, and we approved it. It was a little awkward, the way it came, but, Doreen really built the library to what it is today. When you had Danwood Park, he was the first recreation director. He was, really part of our two parks. And then John, was there for 44 years after that. Al Fletcher Park, former mayor, that's just where the things are. And that was just kind of an automatic almost, because I think he was responsible for getting that land, and Leo could probably fill in that piece of it. Wayne Stambaugh Park, I think he named that himself. He was the public works director. It's Wayne's Park. And I just saw some Stanton Park. I didn't know the end of. The end of Sample Road is called Stanton Park. I've never heard of that. Nor do I have.
Maybe that's the best argument for policy. I mean, if we have stuff.
Well, it's like Wayne. Wayne's like, yeah.
And then there was Fred, and they named the street here.
But that was
the one that
discussion,
there was a little difficulty,
Right.
but he's the one that did this whole city hall, police station, and pulled this whole area together, so I'm not even sure who it was that suggested it, but
Earl.
he developed this whole area as much as Dan Witt did with his
yeah, and
stuff. So, I mean, that was the reasoning behind it at the
And
time.
DeGroff Park was, trying to remember her first name.
I know, I remember her
But
name.
I knew
Beautification
nothing of
committee for
her,
years and years.
of all my years here. But I think, I know she had a lot to do with, I think,
She started the
beautification.
beautification, yeah.
So it's really been a very homespun type of thing. Just people who've been part of the city for such a long time and have given so much back.
But not a formal policy, just somebody came up and said,
No,
"I'd like
no,
to
it came
suggest
different ways.
this," and
They
not
said,
that you
Wayne,
had
we
to
don't,
put
I don't
money
even know
up.
if you could try find out where Wayne's Park came from. I think they just
I
put that
would
sign
build
up
it.
themselves. And that's on Sample Road, right behind Quetex.
Anything else?
No, I'd just say if we're going to do something, keep it simple.
Yeah.
I think we have a lot of other things
Right.
on our plate right now.
I would just mention also, it was one of those thought processes that on 39th Street, we also do have ends of the canals were named by the beautification. I mean, so I think that
It
was.
was named, but they
People
were
paid money for
underwritten
that,
by,
though.
like McLean's and stuff gave money for
Correct.
beautification, but I think that fell by the wayside.
Right.
But that was,
People
those
put that
canal
money.
ends were named for years and years. It was an
Yeah, but they were
Italian.
named after people, and the people that paid money for that, like B. Brown paid for that one.
Right, but it was like Casa di Mare or something like that.
Yeah, it wasn't named after them. They got a sign with their name on it.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting how we have the ends of off 39th, all those canal names, and people are like, Italian, everything else, about birds and stuff, and this is whatever, but, yeah, that's something the history will probably never write about, because they don't know the answer. But we have had funding, just like you have the roadway sponsored by, and I know Fred and Sherry McLean, did one of the what I'll call them end caps of the off 39th and others did. And that's always something that, you can do if someone wants to sponsor the cleanup or the beautification of it. But then you get into a problem of what do you have to do to maintain that canal end in this particular case.
And we got the money from Irene Zaleski Fund to put that big tree in the roundabout and a little plaque there for her.
For her,
It all
all the time
just
when I
sort
go
of
out.
came spontaneously from a group, whatever the group might have been.
Which is kind of the beauty of a small city.
So I think the consensus is keep it simple. I would say, I'm not, we have, we run into issues sometimes, and maybe it's just my experience, because I haven't, you guys have gone through more namings than I have. I guess it's hard enough sometimes it brings up emotions to name something after somebody. I guess I have a hard time even looking at these policies like denaming something for somebody. And I get time goes on and people start asking questions like, who's that person or who's that, but I just don't know if our policy on naming needs to also cover denaming, for lack of a better term, but.
Denaming?
Changing
history.
No, but I mean, that's what it sounded, it's not how long, I mean, that was some of the things that were discussed, right? Like, how long does the name stay up for? I'm saying I don't like that. I don't want to do that. Because it causes enough controversy to name something rather than
Typically, in
change it.
perpetuity, you're looking at, if you look on like a university level, they will typically have it either in perpetuity, but, buildings come and go, and then there's usually this little caveat in the contract that's written up, that the donor will say, I have the first right of refusal if this building ever gets moved or demoed and reconstructed somewhere else. But in this case, we're pretty much naming it without any sort of financial support. So we're doing it for the work they've done. And I know if it's, there was a question when John Trudell had his name on that scoreboard.
Right.
He said he'd be more than happy to take that down himself if he had, the other thing.
So that was the one thing, I guess, let's see if administration, with all the other things they have going on, can come up with something simple. I don't know, good luck, but I did like the Wilton Manors one, probably the best out of all of them. And I guess the only other thing that jumped in my mind sitting up here talking about it is if the simple policy is gonna have a financial component, and I get your that gets a little weird. Does it run, we already have a gift policy, right? How does it interplay with the gift policy? Is it, I would think a pure gift is nothing, is a gift. You don't get anything in exchange, but just making sure it jives with that is just a thought that jumped into my head. Hopefully the two would not meet, but it's probably worth looking over to make sure we don't conflicting policies.
You've got something, you've got the commemorative naming to honor important contributions to the community and to the city, right? And then you've got like donation sponsorship, where somebody provides you funds in exchange for it, whether it's an exchange for naming an entire facility on behalf of themselves or their family or a foundation, to something like you were talking about with the end caps of canals, saying, and that money goes into a cleanup fund for the city or something, and you established the parameters for that. So you've got different levels, and so maybe in putting something simple, you can provide for commemorative naming versus sponsorship naming versus fundraising type programs, which are more temporary. We don't have to put all the meat on the bones, but maybe we put some general things on there for those three large categories, and then you can take a look at what is proposed, and then if you agree with it, we can bring it back in the form of an ordinance.
Yeah. And, we do have sponsorship already. Well, I know Recreation Committee has sponsorships with the banners and things like that, and that's somewhere to start on too. Because you have a time period, you have, what they get for it, which is advertising. And, you ask yourself, and that's common, around baseball fences and things like that and other stuff. So, I mean, that can be part of, sponsorship, the memorial, as you want to call it, or what did you say, was it the recognition?
Well, you've got commemorative.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've got donations and sponsorships, and then you've got like fundraising programs.
I do want to thank the mayor for bringing this up, so we've had many discussions over the years.
And I guess, I heard the word ordinance, and this says policy. Are we contemplating codifying this, or?
I may have misspoke.
Oh, I-
Bring
I'm
it back
not
as a policy, and then we can, and then if you guys bless it, that'll be what the administration does. And, you know, we'll bring it back to you. What is the policy? What type of approval for a specific naming? You know, in the past, we've done resolutions for city facilities. So, you know, we can provide for that type of approval versus maybe for fundraising type naming, it could be done by administration, you know? Just like the smaller gifts that are done by administration. So we can come up and frame out something to bring you on those, like I said, those three maybe categories of a policy that would give us enough direction to move forward with answer some questions if they come up, and move forward maybe with some programs going forward.
Any further discussion?
Do we have something on the table that we're looking at right now, or is this something just for future use?
The idea was to get your input, to get the commission's input so we could get a base, to obviously see if there was an appetite for it, but more so to get a base. And then Mike and myself will work on it along with John to put something together that, from what we're hearing here, and bring it back to you so we could have a policy. And that was always the idea.
Okay.
Unless somebody else wanted to go otherwise, but the policy would dictate how the naming aspect would be through a resolution, because that's what we've done before. And so we're just looking, to Mike's point, and I know Mike has brought it up before numerous times, to kind of put this to rest once and for all.
I don't think we need, I don't think we need a motion. I think we have direction. I think consensus and direction, someone correct me if I'm wrong, is we're ready to move forward with some sort of policy, keep it simple, bring it back to us so we can complicate it and make it.
Do you make it the Mike Long policy?
Yeah, then we'll name the commemorative policy.
There you go. Section C, policies, naming policies. All right, moving on. Agenda item 4, moving on to our ordinances. Ordinance 2022-0985, being presented to us by Mr. Hickey. This is a public hearing.
Good evening, everyone. Jim Hickey, address 1800 Ella Drive, Fort Lauderdale. This is the second reading of this item. The first reading was held on April 26th. Couple of changes, and I'll just go over these briefly, and this is regarding open-air shade structures. What we're requesting is to change how we measure the shade structure. In the code right now, it's 150 square feet measured to the center of the support posts. What we're recommending is to change that to 336 square feet, and that's measured to the outer edges of the roof line with no supplemental roof overhang. So regardless of what type of structure, the maximum square footage would be 336 feet. The other item that we're mentioning that should be of note is that the current code allows for that 3-foot projection of the roofs that have a gable that would allow it to go in the setback. We're taking that out so that any shade structure would have to meet the side setback that is required within that district. The majority of those are 8 feet. With that, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Commissioners, we need a motion to read.
Motion to read.
You have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Patron seconded that one. Go for it.
In ordinance to the City Commission of the City of Lighthouse Point, Florida, amending Chapter 42 Land Development Code, Article 4 Zoning, Division 5 Supplemental Regulations and Requirements for Specific Uses, Section 42-371, entitled Yard Encroachments, to amend the permitted size of covered portion of open-air shade structures, providing for conflict severability, codification, and an effective date.
It's a public hearing. We'll open public hearing on this ordinance. If you would like to address any discussion regarding this proposed ordinance, come forward, state your name and address, and we'll give them 3 minutes to speak. Seeing no one in the gallery. Zoom land. If anybody would like to address this ordinance at public hearing, raise your hand, please. I don't see anybody raising their hand. Madam Clerk, do you see anybody raising your hand?
No, sir.
No? All right. No one else has come forward. So we will close public hearing on this ordinance 2022-0985. Discussion from commissioners. Pass with flying colors on first reading. Any further discussion? And you all know what to do.
I'll make a motion to pass ordinance 2022-0984 about the shade structure encroachments to amend the permitted size of the covered portion of open-air shade structures, providing for conflicts, etc.
Commissioner Jones, I think you meant 0985, just to be clear.
What did I say?
You said 4.
And I'll second,
Yeah, I knew what you meant. No worries.
0985, I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have a second for ordinance 2022-0985. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much. Moving on to our next ordinance, ordinance 2022-0986, regarding amending Chapter 2, Section 2-181 and 182 to increase purchasing authority for city administration without competitive bidding to $35,000. City Attorney Cirillo.
Mr. President, members of the City Commission, this is here for your consideration tonight. The last time this threshold was adjusted was in 2006, which increased it from, I believe, $10,000 to $20,000. The recommendation from the city administration is to adjust it now, it says it has not been adjusted in the last 16 years, to $35,000. That will give the administration authority. Still, there are still policies that require bids informally and whatnot, but anything at $35,000 above that would have to go through competitive bidding, whereas right now it's anything above $20,000. That $35,000 figure also coincides with the CCNA and what the threshold would be for studies. At some point, at 35 and above, you have to go through CCNA. 35 and below, you can go through your normal channels. So this is here for your consideration on first reading.
You get a motion to read?
Motion to read.
Second.
In ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Lighthouse, Point, Florida, amending Chapter 2 Administration, Article 6 Finance, Division 2 Purchasing, Section 2-181 entitled Purchases Less Than $20,000 and Section 2-182 entitled Purchases of $20,000 or more to increase the purchasing threshold for purchases by the City Administration and the requirement for formal bidding to $35,000, providing for conflict, severability, codification, and an effective date.
Discussion.
I thought when we switched it from 10 to 20, it was more of, it didn't have to go through commission approval. It wasn't necessarily dealing with the bidding piece of it.
There was two parts of that. One is, you change it from 10 to 20, but then if we, and that was.
And if you have anything from between 10 and 20.
You want it to show up on the
report.
treasurer's report. That's
Yeah.
what it was. And that's what.
But I didn't think that had anything to do with the bids.
The 20,000 was the bid, but then anything over 10, between 10 and 20, that didn't go out to bid, you want it on the treasurer's report, and that's what we've done.
So would this still be on the treasurer's report up to 35?
Whatever you want.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I just think it's important that we know where the money's.
No, I agree. We put it for sure.
Any other discussion?
No.
I'm respectfully, I'm a no on this. I just feel like, almost to Commissioner Long's point, we, especially with due respect to our new mayor, and I mean this sincerely, I'd be a no if it was Abraham Lincoln as our mayor. I just feel like, especially with some of the critiques of the strong mayor system, not a strong mayor, but the system of late, that I've said it before, I'll say it again, the strong mayor system works best when we have a strong commission. Our biggest power is the power of the purse, and I respectfully believe we should hold on to that, and I think we should keep it at the $20,000. I understand it hasn't been updated since 2006, but I just feel like we should not be ceding that authority, and we should be exercising the oversight. It's my opinion, and like I said, I mean no disrespect to administration or the mayor, who I will admit has brought a new flair to the strong mayor system in the first month of doing it, so I respect that, but I just feel strongly that the commission should flex its muscle when it can, and it should keep as much muscle as possible.
I don't agree with you, because I think if we authorized it $20,000 16 years ago, we're not really upping it that much, because times are changing, and 20,000, isn't 20,000 anymore. And I think that with all the administration in this city has to take care of, to give them a little more authority without coming to the city commission, I'm in favor of going ahead and saying yes to this.
What is the impetus behind going from 20 to 35? Is there something that would make the administration's job easier? Or, what, John or Mayor?
Yeah.
I would just say that, to Commissioner Johnson's point, $20,000 doesn't buy you a lot more.
I understand that.
And that's the difference. It's asking for money to go get milk now, right?
Anything over $20,000 now has to go through competitive bidding, it has to be advertised, the proposals have to be prepared, and then it has to come to you to be awarded unless there's a bid waiver. And then the formal bid waiver, anything over $20,000 that comes to you requires, I think it's unanimous vote, at least
for bid
for commissioners. And if it does, the bid waiver, and those are typically done when other cities and counties have gone through competitive bidding, and they get the prices, and we contact the prevailing party and that, say, will you match it for us? In some other places, it's called piggybacking, and that's an exception to bidding. We don't have any type of exceptions to it. You either bid or you waive bids, and right now, that decision is at $20,000. And so what this will allow is that if something comes in at $21,000, that doesn't mean they have to step back and go through, create the published RFP specs, bid specs.
But we could waive that bid, but you could come to us and say we want to waive it.
Or the formal bidding process doesn't have to be, because, the work to do the formal bidding, again, there's a couple of different ways you can do bidding. My experience is that the city administration and department heads don't go grab the first price they see and bring it to you. There's research involved with it to make sure it gets the best price and the comparative prices, and then there's verification of the vendor, communications with the vendors and all. So there's a under the surface of iceberg type work that goes on to bring a bid waiver to you before you see it, because they know the threshold is so large for you guys to approve a bid waiver, it has to be unanimous. So if even one of you do not want to vote for that, the bid waiver is not going to pass. So it really is just at what threshold is the city administration able to purchase things without going through those two options to bring it to the city commission. And again, that's really the difference. And there's a difference in workload between informal solicitations of bids and proposals and putting together a formal notice bid package or a bid waiver to the commission.
That answer your question?
Sort of.
Another question. What about the difference between budgeted and unbudgeted? I mean, I would have a little more flexibility with this if it was budgeted and we knew that they were going to be purchasing this, XYZ thingamajiggy, instead of having to do the whole bid process of, it's $28,000. We've already budgeted as part of our yearly budget is different than being unbudgeted that, something's come up.
I think even if it was in the budget, the idea is it's in the budget, but we would know about it, but when you go to execute, you still got to go out to bid. You would have to go out to bid. I mean, I'm not sure that gets us where he wants to be, or where administration wants to be.
I would say it's all, to Mike's point, it's time and effort to get to a certain level nowadays, which 16 years ago, $20,000 was a lot different.
5 years ago, the way things are going up now.
Commissioner Patron?
Yes, I think definitely it needs to increase. Maybe 35 is too much, maybe need it 30? That raise everybody's comfort level a little bit?
I have confidence in what Kyle and John have set down. They're the ones that have to deal with this. And I just believe that they feel that this is the way that we can expedite things and make their work a little less, that I don't see that it's a problem. I mean, I trust them. I don't think they're going to sneak anything by us. It's just anything we can do to make it a little bit easier.
No, it's not, and I want to make it clear, for me, it's not about confidence in either of them. I mean, it's about, for me, it's just the traditional kind of checks and balances thing, and I just feel strongly about it. I understand your point. I would probably not support it at 30 either, but if 30 is better. But I don't know. I'll let the commission do what it will, I'm going to be in there.
Is there a way to put a check and balance in there?
I think that overcomplicates it probably.
Well, we meet every 2 weeks. And I understand that it creates a lot of work for the mayor and John if they have to go through this process. If there's a way that, we know that he's going to be spending $35,000 on something.
I don't think there's a way to bless it or through a bid unless it's at a formal meeting, in the sunshine. So I don't think there's a way. I think it would have to, if it's going to go through a bidding process, unless they came to us with a bid waiver, which happens a fair amount, there'd be no way to, I don't know. I mean, I'm open to suggestions, but I don't think any other way. If it's going to go out to bid, then it's got to come back to us for approval of the bid. It's got to go through the process. I wish there was, but I don't think there is. So, further discussion?
No, I'll make a motion, see where it goes. I'll make a motion saying that ordinance 2022-0986.
Got it.
To increase the purchasing authority for the city administration without competitive bidding to $35,000.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Johnson. We have a second by Commissioner Marshall. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Sounds like 4-1, pass. All right. Moving on to resolutions. Resolution number 2022-2431, Finance Director Olympio.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is for an amendment to the interlocal agreement between Broward County and the city of Lighthouse Point. This is for the additional 3-cent local option gas tax. The estimated funds that the city should receive for fiscal year 2023 are $75,000. And I recommend that the City Commission adopt the resolution approving the 2022 amendment to the interlocal agreement with Broward County and authorize the appropriate city officials to execute the agreement.
Need a motion to read, Commissioners.
Motion to read?
We have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Johnson.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lighthouse Point, Florida, approving the 2022 amendment to interlocal agreement between Broward County and City of Lighthouse Point, providing for division and distribution of the proceeds from the Broward County additional 3 cents local option gas tax and motor fuel ordinance, and providing for an effective date.
Discussion?
I got a quick question.
Sure.
What is our population here in Lighthouse Point?
Population, about 10,500.
I think it says Bureau of Economic and Business Research, Florida estimates of population. We just got done with the survey of how many
Census.
people, a census, and what was our final answer on that? Just wondering, because, obviously it's based on our population. I thought we were around 11,000, but.
Yeah, I thought we were up closer to that too. There's so many kids now.
Yeah.
Seems like when you go to the park.
Just thought that we might want to verify that. We need to fight for more.
Okay.
They probably know.
Any further discussion?
Is the 75,000 about comparable to prior years?
Yes, it's based on trend. That's not the actual, Broward County does not tell us an amount. That's
Right.
just
I
based
remember
on
that.
my guesstimate for next year.
Further discussion? Then we have a motion to approve, Commissioners? Bueller? Motion to approve?
Motion.
Go ahead, you got it.
You got it. You're senior.
Oh,
Now
geez.
you got it.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2022-2431.
Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Petrone, a second by Commissioner Marshall on 2022-2431. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Oppose? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to agenda item number 7, Resolution 2022-2432. Finance Director.
This is for the additional 5 cent local option gas tax sharing program with Broward County. Again, the city approves this agreement with them every year, and the estimated funds for fiscal year 2023 are $48,000, and that funds mainly the community bus program. So that would vary if the bus wasn't running for any reason, but the estimated revenue is $48,000. And I recommend that the City Commission adopt the resolution approving the 2022 amendment to the interlocal agreement with Broward County and authorize the appropriate city officials to execute the agreement.
Can I get a motion to read, please?
Motion to read.
Second.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lighthouse Point, Florida, approving the 2022 amendment to interlocal agreement between Broward County and the City of Lighthouse Point, providing for division and distribution of the proceeds from the Broward County additional 5-cent local option gas tax on motor fuel for transit and providing for an effective date.
Questions or discussion, Commissioners? Hearing none?
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2022-2432.
Thank you.
Approving the 2022 amendment to the interlocal agreement between Broward County and the City of Lighthouse Point, providing for division and distribution of the proceeds from the Broward County additional 5-cent local option gas tax on motor fuel for transit.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Petrone. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Moving on, agenda item number 8, Recreation Director Word.
Good evening once again. At the September 30th, 2021 City Commission meeting, the City Commission extended the agreement for the tennis center management for 6 months. During that time, the city conducted a competitive bid process for future management of the tennis center. A request for proposal 2022-001, tennis center management and operations, was advertised, and on January 2nd, 2022, bids were publicly opened on February 1st. Bids were received from the following 2 companies: FM Tennis LLC, G&A Tennis Management, Inc. The selection committee consisted of myself, Athletic Supervisor Townsend Crittenberger, and Liles Point resident Pike Rowley, who received the proposals. The committee recommends FM Tennis as the most responsible and qualified bidder. References were checked and found to be satisfactory. The city will receive fees of $4,000 per month in year 1, $4,120 per month in year 2, $4,243.60 per month in year 3 of the agreement. The city will pay FM Tennis $2,847.43 biweekly for the tennis court maintenance. This will result in an estimated savings of $39,000 for the city to operate the Liles Point Tennis Center. At this time, I recommend the City Commission adopt the resolution awarding the bid and approving the agreement with FM Tennis LLC for the tennis center management and operations, and authorize the appropriate city officials to execute the necessary documents. We do also have representatives from FM Tennis here, if you do have any questions for them to answer.
We get a motion to read?
Motion to read.
We have a second. We have a second by Commissioner Johnson.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lighthouse Point, Florida, awarding the bid to FM Tennis LLC and approving an agreement for tennis center management and operations, RFP number 2022-001, authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute the agreements and all necessary documents and providing for an effective date.
Commissioners, discussion, questions for our Recreation Director or the representatives of FM Tennis? Commissioner Long.
Yeah, Becky, I'm trying to figure out, okay, they pay us $4,000. We pay court maintenance of $5,700 a month. So we're losing $1,700 each month. All right?
Well, when we have a comparison to what we're paying now, because we would no longer need certain positions that we are city employees at this time to do the maintenance. Because right now, currently, we have part-time employees that work 58 hours biweekly that also earn sick and vacation time. We have part-timers that are working nights and evenings, as well as Public Works who have had to step in when I've had a shortage. And so we're paying overtime to them just to have the maintenance of the courts done. So that's why when we did a comparison from what the city is doing now to what we're doing, along with taking the employees out of the tennis center that we're currently paying for, there will be a savings of $39,000 for this next year.
So where are those employees, let's call them FTEs for this particular case, rather than the people themselves, but how many FTEs will no longer be part of the city?
Well, one has since retired, who was running the pro shop, and then there will be all the part-time employees that I have on staff as rec leaders will then be carried over to the new community center and helping with the sports programs and the summer camp. And then the other employee would just be no longer employee, the position would no longer be needed.
Okay, thank you. Other questions?
Can you explain more about the maintenance?
Good idea.
It's very detailed. What would you like to know about it?
Well, and when you look at Exhibit 2, it says the city shall be responsible for the maintenance of the tennis center facilities, not including daily, weekly, monthly maintenance of tennis courts. City will clean restrooms, things like that. It seems to be, I'm confused.
Right, that's okay, because it is part of a park, which is our property, and the city, the tennis center will still be our property. So we're looking at it as they are rentals of part of our property to be able to run their business. And just like, another landowner over Red Fox, you have your own employees, you're in charge of your area that you keep. So the maintenance for the courts, the daily court maintenance, that will be done by FM Tennis, and which is, it's a lot of work. I've been actually doing a lengthy study for about 6 months, keeping track of how much work we put in for daily use, weekly use, monthly use, and as needed, such as like hurricanes and storms. And we figured that this would be a better deal for the city, that they are the ones that are impacted by actual use of the courts, because if the tennis members don't think that it's, up to their par, then they're going to put the complaints to the management that's in charge of it. Now, the actual restrooms, which is part of the parks, the weeding, that's, again, part of the park system, the sidewalks, trees, any kind of debris around there, outside of the vicinity, I feel is part of the city's property that we should maintain. So they're doing all the interior court work, which is a lot, several hours worth every day, 365.
Okay. What about, we need to have new nets? Is that?
All capital improvements will go, any budget items like that, that will be part of the city's, because it is our property.
Thank you.
Yes?
In the contract, it says, it refers to hours and things like that. Do we have control over that? Or in fact, like, let's say, for example, that FM wants to close the tennis center on Sundays. Can they do that?
That would be part of the agreement, but right now, it's the city is the one that is setting the hours, because it's a
But
tennis
there's
center.
nothing in the contract that says any particular, but that'll be
Right.
done?
I would say, I'm pretty sure we have put that in there. I'll go back and look. But right now, the pricing and hours is something that the city states.
I thought I read it today.
Yeah, it's in there.
It's in there, I saw it.
Yeah, it's in there. Is there any priority for residents to?
To play?
Yeah, to play.
They do have a price breakage. It's cheaper for residents to play, both for a daily use or an annual use or seasonal. All get a price discount compared to.
But if there's only so many tennis memberships available, because there's only so many courts, is there any preferential treatment for residents versus somebody else? I know they have to pay more, but.
Yeah,
I
the
think
need
we should
hasn't
be fair
been
for
there yet. I haven't seen that been an issue. It's mostly just trying to look the priority to the members, that we don't want to just have walk-ups, that we want to get priority. And one of the big things that we implemented there was the online reservation systems of the courts. So that is only given to the members, and that, reserves the court for them to play. So a walk-up wouldn't be able to just come and play Wednesday at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the morning.
Anything else, commissioners? I'll just reiterate for FM Tennis, this, as they probably heard, and we all went through, there was some controversy associated with this. It sounds like we moved past that, but, some of the biggest concerns I heard, and the concerns with bringing in an organization is, and I say this with the hope that it's a successful relationship.
We all want it to be.
Is that, there is a strong membership there that's very passionate about tennis. I'm sure that's how it is in most places. And it's finding the balance of juggling all those people who want to frankly play tennis when they like to play tennis, and balancing that with the business interest that FM Tennis has, because they clearly have FM Tennis, they have business interests, and then also the loyalty to the current staff and employees there. We're not going to sit up here and micromanage how these people run their business, but,
We'll let you know that right now, all the pros do have a position with FM Tennis.
Good to know. So that's well received and appreciated, so thank you. But those were the concerns that I heard, and I expressed that to FM Tennis just again, so hopefully it's a long and successful and mutually beneficial relationship.
And just so commissioners know, this is going to be really able for us to follow all of the dollars that are going in the tennis center, because we've had 2 cash registers in there, different systems, and we're going to be able to put this all through Rec Desk, and that's some of the things that the members were asking for, is to be able to pay for programs ahead of time and reserve for them. And it just, again, lets us see it, because it's going to be one of those things that we bring in all of the payments for memberships, lessons, shooting of rackets, anything like that, live ball, whatever they do will come through the city, and then we will then give their revenue share to them back the next month. So again, we will truly have a good handle on how much revenue is in the tennis center, which in my tenure, we have not been able to do.
So we can negotiate a much better contract next time. But anyway, all right. Any other further discussion, commissioners, on this?
I would think that the people in the tennis center must be placated because they're not here, and they were upset for canals and all that, and so I would think that that's smoothed out and should be smooth sailing from here on.
It's because of Becky.
Of course it is. I knew her first.
All right. Commissioners, can I get a motion? Commissioner Johnson, would you like the honor?
I'll make a motion to award the Resolution 2022-2433, awarding the bid and approving an agreement with FM Tennis for tennis center management and operation. It's RFP 2022-001.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you
Very much. Good luck, FM Tennis. All right, moving on. Apologies for it being last to agenda item number 9. Resolution 2022-2434, awarding the bid and approving an agreement with LCCI Construction for 27th Avenue drainage improvements. City Administrator Levitsky.
Yes, sir. Mr. President, Commissioners, the area on 27th Avenue to the west side of the tennis center has flooding over the years, and a couple years ago, there was a project to put some swales in retention areas to relieve some of the flooding that's on the streets. Even though we did that, put significant swales in there, the system can still get overwhelmed during heavy storms. So this project here puts underground pipes and takes it south to 33rd Street, and because we have an existing outfall there. So right now it's a closed system at the tennis center. We're trying to make it so you have an outfall to 33rd Street. We put out an RFP a year ago and awarded it in March of '21, and it had a hard time getting permitted from the county. The county wanted additional on-site storage, not just the water going into the pipes. So added some swale area and some retention, deeper swales and retention area. So we put out the bid. We got 8 proposals in. The low bid was $93,665 from LCCI Construction of Lauderhill. But the county wouldn't permit it, so the county added some things. So we went back to the contractor and asked them to upgrade, to change or modify their proposal, and they did. And they raised it not quite $10,000. And it's still the lowest bid, even though we asked them to raise the price. So the city administration was fine with doing that. The city attorney was fine with doing that. So what we're asking is to recommend the city commission adopt the resolution awarding the bid and approve an agreement with LCCI Construction in the amount of $101,990.50, but also authorize a 10% contingency. We usually, we don't give that to the contractor, but if we need it, we have the contingency at 10%. So we're asking for a funding allowance of $112,000, $200 for the project. And Kerry Winningham should be...
He's online.
Online? Okay, so if there's any technical questions that were asked earlier about the need for the project, then Kerry would be the best one. And I know Becky has experienced at firsthand the overflow at the tennis center and the need to get that water into a system and get it into the canals.
Can I get a motion to read, Commissioners?
Motion to read.
Second.
A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lighthouse Point, Florida, awarding the bid to LCCI Construction LLC and approving an agreement for the Northeast 27th Avenue drainage improvements, RFP number 2021-001, authorizing the expenditure of funds, authorizing the appropriate city officials to execute the agreements and all necessary documents, and providing for an effective date.
Discussion, commissioners.
I'd like to, John, is it possible that we make sure that if this, obviously, if it gets approved, that the contractor has all the all the work, the parts to do the job on site or in his yard or somewhere, so that we don't get halfway through this thing and then they're waiting for a manhole 6 months. I mean, the way the supply chain that we've experienced with the other projects we're doing, can we do that before the project starts?
Commissioner, that's a very good point. We will absolutely do that. Yes, sir. We don't want it to delay it either.
I understand.
Yes.
And if the residents have, I mean, to inconvenience the residents for 6 months because they can't get a manhole covered, I mean, that doesn't make any sense if the street's torn up. So, thank you.
Only makes sense if it's the county. Commissioner Long, Commissioner Johnson, go
Well,
ahead.
what about the point that these folks brought up earlier?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to hear. I guess we heard from some residents that this really isn't a problem, from people that live there every day, and I guess, what is administration's position as to why this is a priority and why it is a flooding issue?
27th Avenue does flood. We put the swales in the tennis area, and it still can get overwhelmed. And we get the ponding, we still want to move the water into a canal. The best thing to do is to get the water into pipes and get it in the canal. We have a lot of percolation that's going to be there, but when you have that overflow, then it gets into the pipes and it'll get into the canal. And we got the city engineer, and he's really the expert to answer these questions.
Carrie?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, what John was saying is, several years ago, we started this project. Several years ago, I recommended that we do two things: build a retention on Franklin Gunner Park, and then put in the plumbing so we can get rid of the water into the canal. So this is really the second phase of that job. I didn't anticipate the county being so strict on this job based on my experience with them on 30th Avenue, but the retention is really a requirement of Chapter 27 of the Land Development Code, and the plumbing that we're putting in will alleviate the flooding that's happening on 27th Avenue.
Is it the position that the actual flooding is onto the street? Because I heard something about the tennis center getting flooded. Is it there's?
Well, what happens is, when I've been out there several times, is that the runoff from the park really goes to the west side of the road, and it floods those homes directly across the street from the tennis center. I mean, it's unbelievable how much water they get. So what this will do is we'll take that water and divert it to the canal.
So I thought I heard, and this is going to one of the points you made, is what I thought I heard the residents articulate is, I think they conceded there was flooding, just not, I guess what they're saying is they had concerns that what's proposed will not address the flooding that does exist.
Yeah, except the street, but.
Yeah, but, hold on a second, sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
I know
Well,
what
we don't usually, sorry.
I'm sorry, I know we're asking.
It's okay, it's okay.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, no worries. I guess that's what I think they need to hear is, even though it sounds like inconveniencing them, that the city is cognizant of, even though, it sounds like the corrective action isn't being taken where the flooding actually is occurring, but I think we need to hear that even though it's not happening where the flooding is occurring, it's going to correct the flooding problem. Is that, I guess, a fair assessment of what everybody heard? And
Yes, but you're saying the flooding is occurring by the
Tennis.
volleyball courts.
well, I think
right?
that's what,
If that's-
by the tennis center. Is everybody aligned on where the flooding is taking place, I guess is the first question.
Well, let me ask this question. Now, you're saying the tennis center, I know you have the large retention pond between the volleyball court and the tennis center.
Right.
And that's where a large amount of water goes to and percolates down. Is that a French drain that they have? Because there's a drain in the middle of it. Is that a French drain?
No, it is not. It's just a pipe with an inlet that bubbles up into that retention area. It's not an exfiltration pipe.
Okay. So I just dug in and usually a bunch of rock, and so percolates down around underneath the ground. So the water itself is just directly west of, on 27th, but the west side of the street from the tennis center?
Yes.
Okay, and that is as it sits now, not how it was?
As it sits right now, when it rains, those homes on the west side of 27th Avenue get a tremendous amount of water in their driveways.
Okay, and how does this compare to other areas of our city that, with the same type of rainstorm, has the same issue?
Retention pond.
This is pretty bad. This is, I couldn't put a number on it, but it's, it doesn't happen in my neighborhood. It probably doesn't happen in your neighborhood. It happens here.
Sometimes happens in my neighborhood, and I even have drains. But,
So we're trying to get the water from here.
you know, how long would it normally take after a very strong rainstorm? How high would it go up onto their driveway? Is it affecting their homes, or is it just the bottom half of their driveway?
That's the pipe.
Just about it.
Okay. And how long does it usually take to dissipate?
It's hard to say. I never timed it, but I guess it's good 24 hours.
Okay. And another question, if this was to move forward, what would we be able to do to make sure that we don't have any of the clay runoff that currently kind of flows into the swale areas? How do we keep that from going into our canals?
Well, right now, you're not going to have, the way it's designed, I'm not having any direct runoff from the tennis center come to my drainage system. If you look at the plans, the water is being picked up on the west side of 27th Avenue, and we kind of cut off the runoff from the tennis center. But the tennis center is going to have to maintain their drainage system by cleaning it, probably after every rainstorm, would be my recommendation.
Okay.
How long, I have to my notes, how long is this proposed project to take?
I'm guessing 6 weeks if he gets in there and gets out. So say 2 months max.
Took them that long to do the lift station in my neighborhood. If I could have one more question. For these affected neighbors here, and you're on the west side? You're on the east side? Okay, so your biggest concern is the drain that will be put in or the swale?
Swales are going to be on our yard.
Okay, so could you talk about their swale? If you're moving everything to the west, that's moving from the west side, they're on the east side, why would they have the large swale area in their property?
It's really the only available area I have to have a swale of decent size.
Well, I'm asking because you're putting drains.
I've got driveways, I've got trees, I've got, just, I don't have any room without taking out a lot of landscape.
So you're putting in drains, correct?
Yes.
On the west side of the road?
But the pipe is going in on the east side of the road if you look at it. But the drains are covering both east and west sides of the road.
Okay, but the issue is on the west side. But I'm wondering, I know we use swales a lot when we don't have drains. Why are we doing the drains and swales?
Swales are not a good conveyance system. They're not dependable. Pipes are.
No, but I think what Commissioner Long is saying is, if we're putting in drains to get the water out, why do we need a swale there?
Because the county is requiring me to have a certain amount of dry pre-treatment before I discharge it in the canal.
And there's no other areas we could do?
And the swales are that dry pre-treated.
So without the swale in these people's driveway, we don't get we can't, they won't approve the project.
Without the swale, we can't put in the pipe.
And without the pipe, you can't get the water out.
So if the swale is there and it's however deep it is, and then over time, more sod gets put in and it becomes less of a swale, no harm, no foul? Is that?
Well, the county's going to, as all of our drainage problems in City Lighthouse Point, we have a 5-year renewal where we have to go out and look at it, make sure it's still in a recertified, so we'll have to maintain it.
This time passes.
How deep will the swale be?
Well, the roads are sitting at roughly 3.5, the swales are gonna be at like, elevation 3, so about half a foot below the road, 6 inches.
What did you say, half a foot?
Yeah,
6 inches.
So 6 inches below the edge of the road or the crown of the road?
This here.
Okay, and how far?
This area right here.
One of the things I want to do is we have an RFP out now for million services, Lake Placid. And so one of the things I want to do is when I come in there to resurface it, I want to create a crossing area that will also help alleviate this problem.
Okay, and how wide will the swale be, or deep, I should say?
It varies anywhere between 20 to 15 feet walking width.
Okay, then the depth, from edge of the road towards our front door, how wide will that swale be?
Their property line, I'm not changing the grade at all on their property line. It's working the right.
Well, I understand that, but, they still got a cut and everything else, but, so, I'm looking at a swale, it drops down 6 inches, how far back does it go? Is it a foot off that roadway, 2 feet off that roadway?
It's 2 feet off the roadway.
Okay. Right here.
What's the city right of way?
It's,
It's 70, I think.
70. That's right, 70.
And we're and we're using how much of that per this?
This is the side of there.
well,
It's a
the
fence.
total width of the swale
Let's bring
area
the
on
detention area in here.
the east side of the road that I'm using is roughly 17, about 23 feet.
Okay. What is occupying that? What is there now? Like, is,
Well, the trees, I'm leaving it alone, but there's open space, green area, it's this side.
okay. So no trees will be harmed by this?
Front door's here, driveway's here, so there's three. So here's one side, so here's this way.
Commissioners, anything else? Further discussion, questions?
No, I just feel bad for them.
I understand.
I have a question. Why, John, this took over a year? And that obviously is the county's issue. Is there, going forward, can we make, we've witnessed anything that the county gets involved in the city of Lighthouse Point seems to take forever.
I don't know, it took a year, but I don't know if we can blame the county for everything, so I don't know. I just know it took a year, going back and forth, but I don't have a calendar about, it took 6 weeks here and 8 weeks there.
I tried to get this job permitted on a no notice, and I had like I did with 30th Avenue, and I got that approved without having this requirement. So I had a little battle with the county, so I kind of had to acquiesce and didn't go for a full-blown permit on this job. So part of it was my fault, because I was trying to economize the job.
I just think that maybe, Mayor, maybe the administration, you guys can get a better handle on what Broward County does not do for Lighthouse Point, for all the taxes that we generate for them.
Well, that's an issue for another time.
Yeah, that swale area, we're gonna make it nice and clean. We're gonna put some new sod in there. We're gonna clean up, there's some rocks in there and debris. There's I think a Brazilian pepper tree we can take out of there, and he has a fence. We can put a nice trinette hedge along the fence. We've offered that, so we're gonna do what we can. We met with the resident yesterday. We're gonna do what we can to try to make that corner nicer. It's actually, I think it's gonna look nicer after the project is finished than it looks now.
Further discussion, commissioners? I guess part of why stormwater is complicated and important and sometimes brings up difficult decisions, but We need to take action or not take action?
I'll make a motion that we pass Resolution 2022-2434, improving the drainage on 27.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second by Commissioner Long. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. We'll try and be gentle, or hope the county's gentle. Well, our agent, understood. That is our last agenda item. Moving on to public comments and requests from the floor. This is your opportunity to come up and address anything we've discussed tonight or anything that you would like to discuss, whether or not it's on the agenda. Come forward, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Anybody in the audience? No? Anybody on Zoom? We have some attendees still on Zoom. I don't see anybody. Raise your hand on Zoom. Hold on a second. I just received. You can come up. I just want to make sure no one on Zoom raised their hand. Come on up.
Abby Stafford, 5031 Northeast 24th Avenue. Just to add a comment, I had a similar project on my street about 6 years ago, and it's not just 12 inches. It's pretty deep. My father referred to it as the Mariana Trench in my front yard. But my question is, and I appreciate the handouts that have been at the last 2 meetings. I never noticed them before, but the last line of the treasurer's report, the contingencies, is there any information on that line item? I looked in the financial statement that was on the agenda last meeting, and I understand the concept of a fund for contingencies, but I didn't know if there was any other information. I know on the last meeting's report, there was an increase of about 150,000, and so I was just wondering if there was additional information available.
No, he left.
Well, John left, but there is, on the, are you asking like what is part of the contingency? I'm sorry, I just want to make sure, or are you entering what goes in or comes out of the contingency?
I'm just wondering if there's additional information, like I saw the notes to the financial statement that said kind of the concept of what the contingency is generally used for, but I didn't know if there was anything specifically.
Corey can't answer that question, but there is an aspect of what the state requires for us to have as in contingency.
Okay.
It's what the city also has in contingency, and also as the administration, we want to have a
It's
contingency.
like a hurricane, it's emergency bridges, and then the state requires
States,
like
I
a,
think it's 1 point. Corey, would you mind? Do you know that offhand?
yeah, it's in the CAFR.
Yeah, I'll have to look at it.
Okay.
It's like 1.25 for the state,
Okay.
1
I
million
did not
for
see that.
us, $1.5 million for a bridge, emergency bridge repair.
Okay.
That gets us to that number roughly.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
No one's raised their hand on Zoom still. Nobody else is coming forward. We'll close public comment regarding anything, and we'll move on to Commissioner Communications. Commissioners.
I have something always.
Commissioner Johnson.
I know we all got a message, an email today from a resident about the AstroTurf, and I'm not an expert on it, so I don't really know if they have a valid point, if things have changed, and I just wondered if we should look at that and see if there was any validity to what they were saying about the depth of it and so on. I thought maybe we could talk about it. Does anybody?
I saw the email,
Yeah.
it came late. I have no problem.
If maybe someone, I don't know who's in charge of looking at the AstroTurf, who would do that? Would that be you, Kyle, or would it be John, or?
I haven't seen the email.
Oh.
If you could forward us the email, then
We got it late,
Okay.
we got it later in
Yeah,
the
we
day
got it
today. We
later
just
in
got
the
it.
day. But it
John.
might just be worth just taking a quick look at, or have someone take a look at and see if there's anything that's changed in the last 4 years that might make it, the thickness they were saying that is different now or whatever, so if we could just take a look, and that way we'd have some.
Sure.
And I got the email say I'm not for that change. She wanted it all the way out to the street,
Well,
including
yeah,
the
I know.
right of way.
And we
The
have-
thickness, we decided that way because one, it had the best percolation, and two, it looked more like natural grass rather than a football field. You know, so, you know, I can say that I'm not going to be supportive of any changes that we currently have. I mean, we have people that have put it in illegally already,
Right.
and I think we have issues with that, but.
And I know we have the problem with people putting it out to the curb, out to the street, I understand that, but when she was talking about the thickness, and there was another thing, there were three things, weren't they? The
Well,
thickness.
she said it drains better, like, you know, but
It what?
it doesn't drain better, and it holds, talks about there's no debris, no, because it gets all blown into the street.
It was the length of the grass being installed by general contractors
yeah.
and putting it in the right of way, which I seem to remember last time being
The
told
right of way was-
that the county, we wouldn't get like credits or like the county wouldn't count it as pervious. That's what I seem to recall being told last time, why we didn't put it in the swales. But if that needs to be changed or can be changed, I'm
Right,
fine
but
taking a look. I think
the
it's,
thickness.
we're getting into we're getting into priorities here, and I don't want to minimize anybody's, what's on any resident's list, but
But we do have to keep on top of the
Yeah.
AstroTurf, because a lot of people are looking in that direction. So as long as we just stay current with it, and if we take another quick